I walked into my brother's engagement party already knowing I didn't belong there. But I went anyway because my mother had insisted. Because family obligations are a leash that tightens the more successful you become. And because part of me still believed blood meant something. The venue itself was stunning. Crystal chandeliers cascading like frozen fireworks, marble floors polished to a mirror shine, waiters in tailored black suits gliding silently with silver trays. People think humiliation always comes from ugly places. They're wrong. It usually comes wrapped in beauty. I adjusted the simple navy dress I'd chosen carefully, modest enough not to draw attention, elegant enough not to be accused of trying too hard. I arrived alone. No plus one, no entourage, just me. Conversation slowed the moment I stepped inside, not because I mattered, but because I didn't fit. My brother, Daniel, stood near the center of the room in a tailored tuxedo, laughing too loudly, soaking up admiration like oxygen. He saw me, hesitated for half a second, then smiled the polite smile people reserve for distant relatives they don't want in photos. His fiancée, Clara, stood beside him, her hand resting possessively on his arm like a claim marker. She was beautiful in a curated, practiced way, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect posture. She looked at me the way people look at furniture they didn't order. I hadn't even reached the drinks table when I heard it. A whisper, sharp enough to cut through the music. "Why is she here?" Clara leaned toward one of her friends, but her voice carried. She didn't care. "That's his sister," someone murmured. Clara's lips curved into a smirk. "The stinky country girl," she laughed softly. Her friends laughed louder. I felt the words hit before the sound finished traveling. Stinky, country, girl, each one a reminder of the story they'd already written about me. I stood still, holding my clutch with both hands, feeling heat crawl up my neck. No one corrected her, not Daniel. Not my mother, who stood only a few feet away pretending to admire a floral arrangement. Silence can be louder than insults. I met my brother's eyes. He looked away. That hurt more than the words. Clara glanced back at me then, eyes bright with satisfaction, as if daring me to react. "Relax," she added, louder now, smiling sweetly. "I'm sure she's used to places like barns." Laughter rippled again. This time, several heads turned to see how I'd respond. People love a spectacle when they think it's safe. I smiled. Not because I found it funny. Because I've learned that calm terrifies people who expect shame. I moved toward the bar, ordered water, and took a slow sip while my heart pounded. I reminded myself why I was there. I reminded myself what no one in that room knew. My mother finally approached me, her smile tight. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming dressed like that?" she whispered. I blinked. "Like what?" "So plain," she said, scanning the room nervously. "People will talk." I almost laughed. People already were. "Mom," I said quietly, "I was invited." She sighed. "Yes, but still." Still not good enough. Still the wrong version of her daughter. Across the room, Clara was holding court now, telling a story that involved exaggerated gestures and frequent glances in my direction. I caught fragments. No idea how she survived out there. Some people just don't evolve. Daniel is nothing like her. Each sentence was a stone added to a pile she was building carefully, deliberately. I wondered how long she'd been waiting to do this. The irony was almost poetic. They had chosen the one place in the city where I was least invisible. The one place where every detail, every contract, every employee ultimately answered to me. But I hadn't come to reveal anything. Not yet. I came to observe. And people reveal everything when they think you're powerless. The engagement toast began. Daniel clinked his glass, pulling Clara close. "I want to thank everyone for being here," he said, eyes sweeping the room. "Especially those who truly support us." His gaze skipped over me like I was an empty chair. Clara leaned into the microphone next. "This night represents our future," she said smoothly. "Elegance, standards, and knowing where you belong." Her eyes flicked to me. Some people laughed awkwardly. Others avoided looking at me altogether. That was the moment something inside me settled. Not broke. Settled. Like a decision locking into place. I finished my water, placed the glass down carefully, and turned toward the nearest waiter. "Excuse me," I said calmly. "Could you ask the venue manager to come here?" The waiter nodded immediately. No questions. Clara noticed. Her smile tightened. Is something wrong? She asked, dripping false concern. No, I replied evenly. I just have a question. About what? She scoffed. The bathrooms, more laughter. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Maybe you should just enjoy the night, he muttered under his breath. I am, I said, and I meant it. The venue manager arrived within minutes. A tall man in a tailored suit, posture rigid with professionalism. He stopped when he saw me. His expression changed instantly. Respect, recognition, relief. He cleared his throat. Good evening, he said, addressing me directly. Is everything to your satisfaction? The room quieted. Clara frowned. Who is he talking to? She whispered sharply. The manager waited. I met his eyes. Actually, I said, my voice carrying without effort, I wanted to confirm something. Of course, he replied. Anything you need. Daniel stared at me now, confusion creeping into his face. My mother's smile vanished completely. I took a breath, steady, controlled. Could you please remind everyone, I said gently, who owns the venue? The manager didn't hesitate. He turned, projecting his voice clearly. This property, he said, including tonight's event, is owned by Miss. He said my name. Perfectly, respectfully, the silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was seismic. Glasses froze midair. Conversations died instantly. Clara's face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. My mother staggered back half a step, gripping the edge of a table. That's not funny, Clara snapped, her voice shrill. The manager didn't look at her. It's not a joke, he said calmly. Miss is the sole owner. We operate under her company. I smiled then. Not sharp, not cruel, just honest. Enjoy the party, I said softly. And that was only the beginning. The silence after the manager spoke wasn't empty. It was heavy, the kind that presses against your ears until you feel exposed just standing there. I could hear someone set a glass down too hard. Someone else cleared their throat. Clara laughed once, sharp and brittle. That's impossible, she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're joking, right? The manager remained still, professional, unmoved. I assure you, ma'am, I am not. Daniel finally found his voice. This isn't funny, he snapped, looking at me like I'd staged an elaborate prank just to humiliate him. You could have told us. I tilted my head slightly. You never asked. My mother stepped forward, her face pale, eyes darting around as if she could undo the moment by sheer will. Why would you do this here? She hissed. Why embarrass the family? I looked at her then, really looked at her, and realized something important. Embarrassment was only a problem when you cared what people like this thought of you. I didn't embarrass anyone, I said calmly. I showed up to an event I was invited to. Everything else happened on its own. Clara's friends had gone quiet now, suddenly fascinated by the Dacre. The same women who laughed minutes earlier wouldn't meet my eyes. Clara grabbed Daniel's arm too tightly. Say something, she whispered. Fix this. Daniel looked around helplessly, realizing for the first time that the room wasn't on his side anymore. Power shifts fast when money enters the conversation. The manager cleared his throat again. Miss, would you like us to continue the event as planned? Every eye turned to me. This was the moment they expected fireworks. Rage, revenge, a dramatic exit. I surprised them again. Yes, I said simply. The engagement should continue. Clara stared at me, stunned. Why? She demanded. After everything, I met her gaze steadily. Because I don't need to ruin your night to prove who I am. That hurt her more than anger ever could. The party resumed, but nothing felt the same. Conversations restarted in whispers. People who hadn't noticed me before suddenly wanted to talk. Business cards appeared. Compliments flowed. Apologies disguised as curiosity. I declined politely. I didn't come to network. I came to close a chapter. Daniel approached me near the balcony later, away from the crowd. Why didn't you tell me? He asked again, quieter now. There was no accusation left in his voice, just confusion. Because every time I tried to tell you anything, I replied, you told me I didn't matter. He swallowed. I didn't know. You didn't want to, I corrected. He nodded slowly, accepting that truth with visible difficulty. My mother joined us, eyes glossy. We were proud of you, she said weakly. We just didn't understand what you were doing. I exhaled slowly. That's the problem, I said. You never tried. Clara never spoke to me again that night. She avoided me entirely, her laughter forced, her confidence shattered. When the engagement ended early, far earlier than planned, I watched from a distance as guests filtered out, still buzzing about what they'd witnessed. The story would spread by morning. I didn't care. I left without fanfare the same way I arrived. No announcement, no escort, just quiet footsteps across marble floors I'd paid for years ago. Outside, the night air felt lighter, cleaner. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine, hands steady, heart calm. I realized then that the victory wasn't public recognition. It wasn't shocking anyone. It was knowing I'd built everything they dismissed me for chasing. Alone, without permission, without applause. They mocked me because they thought they knew my place. That night, they learned they never did.